DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Thursday evening, March the 20th. I'm your host, Michael Leva, joined, as I am each and every week now, by Doug Lee Do-Wrong from right here at DolphinsTalk.com. Doug, how you doing?
I'm all right. My daughter got me a little sick, but I'm getting over it, so I'm doing better.
She got you sick with love. She didn't mean to, Doug. Got you sick with love. But yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean, March Madness is here. Clemson with a big loss here already. I know a lot of people had them going far, so that's been exciting. But they're, this is like the third show of our new venture here that we do each week. And each day we've done a show, there's been kind of some news to talk about. And we had some news today with Austin Jackson and Benito Jones, and we'll talk about that here real quick in a minute. But before I do, a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to caneswear.com. That's right, the website, caneswear.com. For all the best Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. If you need a polo, a t-shirt, a hat, a jersey, a jacket, a sweatshirt, whatever, you need something for your house, you need something for your car with a Miami Dolphins logo, caneswear.com has the best Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet, so check them out. They also have stuff, obviously, for the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers, the Miami Marlins, the Miami Heat, and they also got stuff for Florida State and the Florida Gators, too, who, spoiler, I think the Florida Gators might win this whole thing. So everyone go to the website, caneswear.com. Also, Dolphins Talk Extra, $3 a month, bonus podcast, private message board, pretty cool contests that we give away awesome prizes, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. All right, let's talk about Austin Jackson first, who restructured his contract today. He didn't take a pay cut. He just converted $9.71 million of his salary into a signing bonus. So his salary cap number went from 13.83 to 9.71. And when you do all the hocus pocus and what I like to call NFL math, it opens up roughly $7.8 million when it's all said and done. Per reports from the Miami Herald, I haven't seen that, but they're pretty good, the Miami Herald. I'm going to trust those guys. So they didn't restructure Tua. They didn't restructure Jordan Brooks, at least yet. They didn't do anything with Zach Sealer, at least yet. But Austin Jackson gets a new deal, Doug. What are your thoughts? Not a new deal, but it's restructured. You know what I mean.
I think we all saw that coming. It was him, Chubb, and Sealer were the ones that if you restructured, you got $24 million. They already touched upon two of them. They're probably going to touch upon Sealer's. And what I would do with Sealer, though, is I wouldn't restructure it. I would give him an extension, keep him on the team a little bit longer. Same thing with Brooks and Brewer. So you're not really kicking the can. You're more keeping good players. But as of right now, the Dolphins have $17.96 million in cap space. So, they have more than the Panthers, the Broncos, the Giants, the Bears, the Chiefs, and the Ravens, and the Bills. Bills only have about $4 million in cap space. So they have something to do something. And you have to allocate
roster, though. Not going to lie, I'd rather have the Bills roster.
Yeah. And you have to allocate $9-10 million for draft picks. So
yep. And we're probably also going to cut Jake Bailey, which is going to open up 1.9. So that has to come at some point now.
Yeah, Stonehouse is so much better. I don't understand what they're waiting for. Are they going to have a legit competition during camp? Is that a thing they're going to do?
I hope not. I really hope not. But yeah, and also when I spoke to Josh Moser there, and from WSVN 7, he said from things he's hearing that he thinks that Zach Sealer and Jordan Brooks will get extensions, not even restructures. Like you said, with Zach probably getting extensions, that they both might get an extension, not even a restructure, which would lower their cap number this year, obviously open up cap space. But yeah, a lot of draft picks, at least 10 that we know of. Maybe they'll trade some off. Maybe they trade up and trade. So it's only 8 or 9 at the end of the day. Still, it's a lot of picks. So they're going to have to pay them. So yeah, having the cap space is nice. And plus it still keeps them in play. Although doesn't seem too promising. If they want to sign a free agent, because every free agent they've signed so far has been not every, but most have been a 1-year deal.
Mhm.
And once again, as the Miami Herald reported today, not one of these players has guaranteed money in 2026. These are all essentially 1 year, like what they did last year when they signed those 5 or 6 linemen on defense. Oh, come on in, and if you're no good, okay, just go. We don't care. You don't really count because you're not getting paid anything for real. So yeah, it's all. Even the offensive lineman, they signed James Daniel, no guaranteed money next year. It's amazing.
It's essentially like a 1-year, $4 million contract.
Yeah, I
And
think
it's
he
very
comes next year in the
telling,
cap
but
for $3 million next year. But
yeah,
if they don't want him, goodbye.
it's very telling. The thought process between McDaniel, Greer, and Ross is there's no future. You know, if there was a future, they would probably go out and get bigger players for longer contracts, but they're all 1-year contracts because they don't know if they're going to be here next year.
Well, I think McDaniel, I don't know if he's going to be here next year. Chris Greer is acting like a guy who's got job security.
That's true.
He feels very comfortable to have this offseason, which the question I was going to ask you later, but I'll ask you now. I mean, and I don't want to be one of those guys like the sky is falling. And I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm not saying that. So people don't tweet me, send me stuff. But like this first 2 weeks of free agency or so, kind of disappointing. I mean, there's no other way to say it's kind of disappointing. I mean, yeah, they added new players. But really out of all the players they signed, outside of the punter and a guard, they're all backups. You had a backup quarterback. You had a number 3 wide receiver. You had a bunch of safeties. I'm sure one of them will start, but really probably don't want any of them to start, honestly. They didn't like move the needle, and they just churned to the bottom of the roster. They brought in they brought in new faces. They did get younger, so I give them a lot of credit there. They got younger, but it's like we're not any closer to catching the Bills.
Yeah, and I always say when I look at free agency, and I know it's the first week, and people are already telling me to relax and calm down.
It's the second week now.
Yeah, I'm already getting it's relax, calm down.
Relax,
we haven't even hit the draft yet. This, and that.
Yeah, because the drafts are so good.
You look at the team, and you have to ask yourself, did they get better? And it's like, I don't think they got worse. Like that's obviously there's still positions that need to be filled, but I think the additions didn't get worse, except for Liam Eichenberg, but that's kind of status quo. So it's like you went 8-9 last year. You had a ton of injuries, and you have no depth now. But you brought in some better players in James Daniels, in Nick Westbrook, in Stonehouse. Like Ifeatu Melifonwu, he can't stay healthy. Ashton Davis, he's a thumper. He's not really a good coverage guy.
I would have just paid Holland, honestly. And I know he had a bad year last year, but 2 years, $30 million, I would have just paid Holland. And then tried to fill everything else in with guys. Like, they could have paid Holland and still signed Ashton Davis. You know what I mean? It's like, it's Ashton Davis got 1 year, $2 million. Like, it's not in either or. You could have had both.
Yeah. You got both those guys.
Which is a problem, though.
In Melifonwu and Davis for about $5.5 million. That's how much you paid for both your safeties, your starting safeties as of today. There's still guys out there, but again, it's another thing. It's another season where I'm sitting here post draft, like, gotta sign Simmons. Like, Quandre Diggs is out there. Yeah. Like I did the same exact people at the same exact time last year. I was
Where's
begging.
Dalton Risner? We need Dalton Risner. He hasn't signed yet. Every year it's the same names. It's going to be the same thing. And here we have someone in our chat, one of our writers who I like very much, Tyler. Who did you want them to sign? I didn't say a top free agent.
No.
But they could have done more than just scraping the bottom of the barrel on guys on 1 year deals. I'm not saying they had to go out there and give a 4-year, $80 million contract out to somebody. I'm not saying that. But there is a middle ground between a bunch of 1 year deals for like literally no money for guys who are career backups and the top end guys. There is a middle ground there, and they didn't play in that middle ground market, which I get. Part of it is they can't, because when you pay Ramsey and Hill and the quarterback and Waddle and all these guys last year, it kind of takes you out. But they could have made one move there to be like, that's a guy. And I don't count James Daniels coming off an Achilles as that type of move. Because that wasn't a lot of money. But there were guys out there. They could have signed a corner, or somebody at like moderate money.
Because you see what people are getting signed for, And you're asking yourself, well, what are the Dolphins doing? And I think that's where a lot of our pessimistic is coming from, especially because, I hear what Tyler's saying, and, me and Tyler chat
not wrong.
on
Yeah,
Twitter.
he's not wrong.
No, he's not
Right.
wrong, but you see what other people are doing. Like Azeez Ojulari goes to the Eagles for $4 million, 4.4,
Yeah,
5.4, 1 year deal. Like, I don't understand where, and if we're going young, that's a perfect young guy to grab. We did it with Willie Gay, which we'll talk about, but it's like, okay. And Omar Kelly brought it up. We signed one guy over the age of 28, and
Right.
it seems like we're going in that trajectory, which good, fantastic. We don't want these guys getting banged up at the end of the year, but it's like, you got to ask yourself. I understand it's, we're into week 2 of free agency. Did the needle move?
The answer
And
is no.
for some teams that had more cap space, I get it, like the Bears and some of these other
Patriots,
teams.
of course,
the
it did.
needle
$100 million to
moved.
spend. Yeah.
Yeah. For us, it did not move. Like, we went out and brought back, like, the biggest slap in the face was Liam Eichenberg. You bringing back Liam
That is.
Eichenberg, biggest slap in the face.
And we're 1 week now, because this broke last Thursday, right before we went on the air, because you and me were in a freaking out of our minds. We're looking at days. 1 week they went, I don't want to say they, but a large segment of people in the media and fans were like, just a backup, not a lot of money. Don't worry about it. He's going to be your 7th or 8th offensive lineman. To now, 1 week later, smart, reputable people are like, well, he might have been the answer to address the guard. And just because you fans don't like it, you're going to have to live with it. I guarantee you he will be starting in September. Maybe not week 1. I guarantee he's going to be starting games in September, because most of the offensive linemen can't stay healthy. Austin Jackson is the one guy in the roster who gets hurt more than Tua. He's played in 2, 16, and 8 games the past 3 seasons. And the only reason he gave us 16 because he was motivated to get a new contract, and he did. And he showed up that camp down a bunch of weight, in shape, working his butt off. And I know he got hurt last year with the knee. It happens. But the point is, the only year he stayed healthy was when he wanted a new contract. And he's, you can't depend on him to stay healthy. Whether it's Armstead, if comes back, which I doubt. Patrick Paul, we don't know. There's a question mark there. The guy we signed, everyone's got hope for, is coming off an Achilles. We don't even have another guard, which is probably going to be Liam to start with as of today. Because if you're thinking Chris Greer is going to take someone in rounds 1, 2, or 3, and you can pencil them in as a starter, tell me when that's ever happened with an offensive lineman. Even Robert Hunt year 1 struggled. Then I'm moving from right tackle to right guard, really year 2 to get anything from him. Austin Jackson started as a rookie. Didn't really play well, struggled. Liam, rookie, struggled. Laramie Tunsil, yes, the gift from God. That's not a true example. That's the exception, not the rule. So it's like, if you're thinking we're going to fill these, spots in the draft, well, history's not on our side there, unfortunately, Doug.
Yeah, exactly. And I was on somebody's channel last night, and they asked me the same question about offensive linemen and who can I see at number 13. I said the same thing. So you ain't getting a guard at 13. I said, you'll get a safety, you'll get a corner, defensive tackle, pass rush. You'll get all of these positions. You're not getting a guard at 13. You'll get a guard in the 2nd round. And there are some good guards in the 2nd round.
Absolutely there are.
But
I don't know if you could pencil him in as a day 1 starter, though. That's, that's asking a lot. And plus, here's the other thing. The guys, now I'm really knee deep in all the stuff with the draft. As it gets closer, I start doing even more research than I have been. Kelvin Banks, from what more people are saying, people I trust, I'm not talking about people on social media, people I trust, like Mel Kiper even said, he can play guard. I don't know if you want him to play guard. No, like he can. That's Kelvin Banks. Will Campbell's the only one. I don't think he's fallen to 13. I know his arms are short. Got little tiny T-Rex arms. I get it. I don't think he's fallen to 13, though. And if he does, he'd be the only offensive lineman I'd be okay with him taking, because I do think he still can play offensive tackle at some point. I'm not look, if his arms are 32 inches and 5/8, and I cannot be that upset that it's not 34 inches. I know they say size matters, but if we're talking about 1.5 inches of arm length that's going to make or break this guy's career, that's where we get into the minutia stuff. I think sometimes it's not like he's got no arms. Okay, we're talking like an inch and a third, or come on. It gets
supposedly Teron Armstead has short arms, so it's
proves my point exactly.
Yeah.
But the point is, he'd be the only one. I don't want the kid from Alabama. He's not a scheme fit. Tyler Booker. He's not a scheme. Plus, he'll never take a guard in round 1. So let's just throw that.
Yeah, no.
So it's like, And the kid from Missouri, he ain't going to be there. So it's like, I'm with you. We're not taking offensive line at 13 unless it's Will Campbell. I don't think he'll be there. So yeah, everyone tells us don't worry, but we'll go out there and probably re-sign Isaiah Wynn. And then our prize signing, James Daniels, will probably have a hiccup in rehab where they'll say he's not ready to start the season. And everyone say, don't worry about it. Don't worry. And the next thing you know, we're 0-4. The passing game's not working because we got no time. And he's getting hit to and he's getting up limping. And everyone's gonna say, don't worry, but this was the time when everyone should have worried.
Exactly. And you know, we're essentially what me and Mike are doing is just preparing for the worst and expecting okay. Because you know, you go into the season thinking, oh, this is it, and it starts out 2-6, it feels horrible. So you know, I always go by the motto, you know, I'd rather be surprised than let down. So it's like right now I am not comfortable. I want them to be better, and I expected them to be better, especially with what Greer and McDaniel came out and said in their presser, and they're just not doing what they said again.
Well, they're liars. I mean, not like it. I mean, look, all head coaches and general managers are liars. They're just bad at it because it's so blatantly obvious. And you know, some fans are still, you know, they still fall for it, but whatever. And I'll say, yeah. I mean, and that's just the offensive line. We haven't even gotten to their side of the ball, which is a disaster. But they tried to fix it today, a little bit, I guess, with the re-signing of Benito Jones. They haven't said what it is. I'm going to guess it's a 1-year deal. I don't know how much money is for, though. Nothing's been made official. And so we got him and Zach Sealer. Him and Zach Sealer right now. The only two. I mean, I know they got 2 other guys, but they're practice squad guys. No, they're not guys you're taking seriously to make this team. Last year, he played 17 games, started 15, 24 tackles. If you're into PFF, which I'm not, but if you are, he had a 47.6 run grade, and he had a 51.3 overall grade, rated 142nd out of 219 defensive tackles. Again, nice guy to have in the rotation. Not really excited that we brought back Benito Jones. I really don't want to see him start.
Yeah, and there are, you know, I honestly think what's happening is they're sitting, and this bothers me that they're doing this, but they're sitting around waiting for Calais Campbell.
Waiting for a 39-year-old man who can play limited snaps.
They're waiting to see what he's going to do before they go out and bring in somebody like a John Jenkins, who would be a little bit better, or a Linval Joseph, who would be a little bit better. You know, all of these guys, you know, we need that depth at the defensive line. Now, obviously, we're going to get a starter, hopefully, in the draft, because this draft is deep at defensive linemen. But you can't sit around and wait for Calais Campbell. You know, the rumor
39
is,
years old.
Yeah, he has a contract that the Dolphins offered him, and he is deciding between the Dolphins retiring or the Ravens. That's what the rumor is. So it's like, do you really want to wait around and hope and pray you can get him like Greenlaw and miss out on other guys? Like, that's essentially what happened. And it's not the right time to do that. They need help on the defensive line because we have 1 starter. I don't consider Benito Jones a starter.
Me neither. And here's what I think as we sort of talk. I know some fans are like, guys are going to be so negative. And it's not that we're being negative. Like we're preparing you for what's happening. And I think what's happening, which once again, I know why it's happening, but it's also for the fans who don't know, they're going to be the ones really crushed by this. They're rebuilding, but they won't admit it publicly. This is a rebuilding offseason right here. They're not trying to win a title. They're not trying to win the AFC East in 2025. They are putting together a roster, trying to get their salary cap in order, trying to make sure they have no salary cap issues heading into next year, should they want to move on from the quarterback or some other. They are just trying to get all their ducks in a row from a cap-wise, trying to get younger, which is smart because they were way too old last year. But that's all this is. This is a rebuilding offseason. They just won't say it out loud because they need fans to buy tickets and give them money and show up for the games. But that's what this is. If you just look what they're doing, even the Zach Wilson signing, like if you're trying to quote unquote win this year, as much as I like that signing, and I actually do, they probably would have been well better off served to pay someone like a Joe Flacco or a Marcus Mariota who's got real experience in games, who can actually win games, instead of Zach, which we all think. I think he'll be fine. I think he can be fixed. But there's a question he might not be. With those other guys, you kind of know what you're getting. And it's like, we're taking a shot on this kid. So if number one gets hurt again and he's out 6 games and Zach has to play and he goes 5-1, well, heading into next year, guess what, folks? Spoiler alert, there might be a switch at quarterback. I mean, it's like, it's not rocket science. See how this point. That's their long-term game here as an insurance policy. Instead of if you get Joe Flacco and he comes in and goes 5-1, well, you're screwed because Joe Flacco's not a long-term answer. And this guy who missed another 5, 6, 7 games, he ain't your answer. You're sitting there with squat. So this is a rebuilding year. I really do think it, and they just won't say it out loud.
Yeah, you look at the contracts, right? Next year, if the Dolphins move on from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey, they instantly get like almost like $40 to $50 million in cap space instantly. If they trade Tua Tagovailoa, they get another like $15 million in cap space. With a few moves, the Dolphins next year can have about $100 million in cap space. So it's like they're doing what the Patriots are doing, right? But it seems like they came out and told us we're going to double dip. We're going to be aggressive with the offensive line. They weren't. They aren't still. And they're going to double dip into the draft. We'll see if that actually happens. But it's like, again, we come off negative. This is probably the most pessimistic I've ever sound while doing this. But it's like, there is nothing they have done so far to give me any type of hope that this season is going in a different direction than it did last year. It's the same situation we were in last offseason where come April, come May, come June, I'm clamoring that the offensive line's not good enough. I'm getting told to relax. And then come week 5, week 7, all of a sudden people are like, wow, this offensive line's horrible. And I'm like, I feel like the crazy man in Los Angeles with the sign that the end is coming and people are just ignoring me.
I mean, but at this point, I do think more fans probably think like us because this is like Groundhog's Day. Like it's been this way for 3 years, essentially, where it's like they say they're going to fix the offensive line or they laugh at us and say, you guys are more worried about than we are. And then nothing happens. And then they keep bringing back the same people and they still say, don't worry about it. And then comes the draft. And in this draft, again, top 100 picks, you got 3. If they go, I'm just making this up. If they go, offensive lineman, they take a nose tackle and a safety. Well, now then you're going to take your first offensive lineman because those are 3 huge needs. You're going to take your first offensive lineman in round 4, and then you're going to throw out the spin. Well, don't worry. Butch Barry's going to coach him up. He'll be fine. And then they're going to come to camp, and then they're going to come past the preseason and go, Liam's got to start the season, but don't worry. We think he'll be ready at some point. Next thing you know, you're 3-8, season's over. Now we're going to start him. Who cares at that point? Season's over. Like, I can see how this is going to play out because I'm 47. I've seen this play out many times over the past 10 years. And this has been more the norm than the exception. Yes, there have been years where it's been the exception. Not many.
Yeah, this, like I said before, the signing of Liam Eichenberg was just like it
waving the white flag.
Yeah, there's no way that they could come out and do that. And also, the social media team for the Miami Dolphins needs to read the room. Why would you have him make that video and take a picture of him resigning? Do you think he was going to get nice comments in those tweets? Like, they just need to read the room because it was just a bloodbath on the Twitter with him.
And they still haven't released how much he signed for.
Oh my God, I noticed that too. We still don't know. And he signed that contract. It should be out there.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're going to put out a picture of pen to paper, you can release the terms at that point because he signed it. It's not like speculation. Well, it's still like the legal tampering period. We can't announce. No. You put out the picture, him signed. You put out the video, him talking to holding up the phone. Hey guys, I'm back to the Dolphins. No. You can release the terms. You can release the terms, and the fact they haven't says a lot. And I think they're waiting for either a Friday news dump or they're waiting for something chaotic to happen, like when Rodgers comes out of whatever cave he's in and says, I'm going to play for this team. And that's when they're going to dump it and hope it gets lost in the shuffle. But there's people like you and me who will make sure it won't get lost in the shuffle. Bunch of your $5 million and we're going to blow my lid. Before we get to the final topic of today's show, quick shout out to everyone listening and watching at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins Fan Facebook page, run by the great talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are a part of that I Am a Miami Dolphins Fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, if it's YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. If it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Podbean, Podchaser, or one of the other hundreds of platforms we're on, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. All right, draft's coming up here in about a month, roughly. We are actually 1 month away from WrestleMania. Actually, I just saw that.
Nice.
19th and 20th. We are at March 20th, and the draft's the following week. I think, like the 20th.
Is it officially to change subjects? Is it officially a triple threat match with Rhea Ripley, or has that not been announced yet?
So Monday on Raw, she grabbed she showed up to the contract signing. She took the contract and signed it. And then Adam Pearce goes, "That's not legal. You just can't do that." But they're going to put her in the match, clearly.
Okay.
But yes, she took. But it was funny because in the past, they'd be like, "Oh, she just signed a contract."
She's in there.
Now they didn't play everyone like a fool. They're like, "You just can't sign a piece of paper and just have it be binding. That's not legal." But clearly, that's what they will do. Yes. Okay, so we've spoken about what they've done here in free agency. Now, when it comes to the draft, do you think they've pigeonholed themselves where they cannot draft best player available? They have to draft for need. Meaning, at pick 13, if Tyler Warren, who's a super talented tight end, falls in their lap, as much as they might want to take him, as much as they might be like, "This is the best player, we got to take him." Well, we have no defensive line. We have no cornerback outside of Ramsey. We have no safeties. We still need offensive linemen. I can't take Warren because I got to take someone to play. If they think Ashton Gentry, who I wouldn't take a running back around, but if they think he's the next Saquon Barkley, like, well, we can't take him. We have all these other holes to fill. Even Shedeur Sanders falls to 13, which is not impossible, I guess. You're like, you know what? We have a quarterback who's always hurt. Maybe we take this guy now and start the transition in time because it is the most important position on the team. Even if our guy who got hurt this week, unfortunately, Jihad Campbell, now at linebacker, I don't think they need it. But if he was there, I mean, he's a wrecking ball.
Mm-hmm.
Put the injury aside, they'd be like, well, we kind of said linebacker. We don't have a safety. Like, have they pigeonholed themselves that they must draft for need? And I don't care who's on the board at wide receiver, linebacker, tight end, quarterback, running back. They just can't under any circumstance.
I think somewhat. I think you hit on some of the positions.
Warren, I might take. Warren.
Yeah,
I'm not taking Gentry.
I think beforehand, like if the Dolphins were more like diligent on going out and answering more questions versus, just kind of grabbing people. I think, but I think it's a yes and a no. Like, I think that they pigeonhole themselves to a certain extent because they still have a need at defensive line. They still have a need at safety, at corner, at guard, even kind of at edge rusher. They still have a need. So that's a big portion. But if a Warren's there, if Genty's there, if, Jaheed Campbell, which he might be there in the second if this injury is a thing. Right. Then you trade up and get that man. Don't let the Eagles get him. That's all I'm going to say.
If you're rebuilding anyways, don't worry about it.
Exactly. The premium pick, right? This guy's more talented than probably not. Because if you're sitting there and Warren's sitting there or Will Johnson's sitting there, obviously, as a Dolphin fan, I'm like, you got to get Will Johnson. There's your cornerback one for however long you need him because Ramsey's not going to be here for much longer. But as a talent aspect, Warren is the better prospect, but you're not going to take him because you don't need a tight end.
Yeah. Will Johnson, when's their pro day, Michigan? Was that today? I don't know. I want to check because I was watching the NFL Network and they had, I think it was Path to the Draft or like mock draft show, whatever they do. And they're like, if he runs a 4.5 or less, he's going to go like top 10. If he runs under a 4.5, he might fall a bit in round one, like mid-teens, late teens. And obviously, at 13, he's going to be in the mix. And if he is past his foot injuries, which it was like a turf toe and something else that was minor, something drastic, he's the pick. I mean, he's the pick.
So their pro day is tomorrow.
Oh, okay. I got to pay attention to that.
But on Tuesday, March 18th, Michigan cornerback Will Johnson won't work at pro day because of a hamstring injury.
Oh, this guy. See, Chris Greer's going to love him with all these injuries. I mean, he's going to love this guy. But he's the guy, I think, who's so stinking talented. If he's there at 13, it's going to be tough to pass up. But if he's got a hamstring with a turf toe,
You could probably
even
trade down
now,
and still get him.
you might be able to trade down a few spots. But yeah, I still think end of the day, if I hit, and it's March 20th, don't hold me to this because we're going to do shows up until the draft. I'll probably change my mind each week. But today, March 20th, if 3 picks, it will be Shamar Stewart, Walter Nolan, or Kenneth Grant. I think it'll be one of those 3 at 13 if I had to bet $1. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking as of today. That might change. I think all 3 of those guys are plug and play. No, there's now a lot of negative reports coming out on Shamar. So that makes me think people want him and they're trying to have him fall. Because usually when that much negative reporting comes out on someone in like an orchestrated way, someone's trying to get him to fall a little bit. Because I still love him. I don't care. I don't care how many sacks he had in college. You know why? They said the same thing about Chop Robinson. He was just fine last year. College and pro ain't the same, Doug. You know that.
Exactly.
All right. So that's all for today's show. Another rosy, upbeat edition. We'll try to be happier next week. I don't know. Let's see what the Dolphins do in the
we'll make a promise. Next week, we won't talk negative. I promise.
We'll see what the Dolphins do in the next 7. No, don't make a promise because if they do something stupid in the next 7 days, I ain't going to stick to that promise.
We're gonna see the contract come Wednesday.
Yeah. If they drop a contract between now and like the end of next week, we're gonna come out with an emergency pod and just curse these people out. Yeah, but and plus as we get closer to the draft and further away from them signing guys, because that will slow down, we're gonna be talking about a lot more draft stuff because it is very fascinating on what they can do in round 1. If they did take a left tackle, that's very telling on Patrick Paul because I've been seeing a lot of mock drafts and they act like Patrick Paul was never born. It's like Armstead might retire, they need a left tackle. Like, did they wait? You guys do this for a living? Didn't you follow last year's draft? Hey, last thing, real quick. Did you see the CBS mock draft, 3-round mock draft?
No.
You got to go on our site and check it out.
Okay.
This is every Miami Dolphins fan wet dream. Would pick 13, pick 48, and pick 98. They went offensive tackle, offensive guard, offensive tackle with the first 3 picks. Now, I don't know if the guy who put it together maybe had a brain fart or maybe he thinks this offensive line is so bad they need all 3 of these guys. But it was Kelvin Banks, Tyler, he fell to round 2, pick number 48, and then an offensive tackle from Rutgers at the end of round 3. Who's like a mountain of a man. He makes Patrick Paul look small, this guy. But either way, it was 2 tackles and a guard, first 3 picks. It goes, some Dolphins fans, this is their wet dream. This is all they want is every pick to be offensive lineman. Someone at CBS.com is either having fun or they're listening or they're a frustrated Dolphins fan. I don't know. That's all for today's show. Everyone, be sure to go on YouTube and search for Dudley Do Wrong. And you can also watch his videos as well up at DolphinsTalk.com. Follow him on all social media at Dudley Do Wrong. Go to the website, DolphinsTalk.com, and you can follow me on social media as well at Dolphins Talk. Everyone, have a great rest of your Thursday night. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, please don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.